Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. Any disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof? Seeing none, I've got some opening remarks. The public meeting is being heard by the City Council Planning Advisory Committee, and public notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The non-elected members of the Planning Advisory Committee are Mr. John Beltudis, Mr. Tyler Fenton, Mr. Paul Jennings, and Ms. Sarita Van Dyke. Citizen appointees may ask questions and participate in the discussion in order to assist in making recommendations to City Council, but may not make motions or vote in connection with the public meeting. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Planning Committee or City Council before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of City Council or the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Belleville before the related bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Comments received at this public meeting, as well as written comments, will be considered by the Engineering Development Services Department in analysis of the applications that were part of the public meeting tonight. For further information on how to provide comments to the City regarding an application from this public meeting, please email planning@belleville.ca. A recommendation report will be brought forward upon receipt of all agency and public comments in the future. Any persons wishing to be advised of the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee's recommendations with respect to today's applications are requested to provide their name and address, as well as the application which they have an interest in writing to the City of Belleville. And we'll move on to public meeting. 4.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendments to the Loyalist secondary plan and to zoning bylaws 2076-80 and 10245, part of lot 31 and 32, concession 1, part 1 of plan 21R-19 789, and part 1 and 2 of plan 21R 26 201, Wallbridge Loyalist Road, City of Belleville. Owner is 2663925 Ontario Incorporated. Agent is RFA Planning Consultants, and the file number is POOPA 2023 1001 and B-77-1195. If staff could present the application, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. The property is located east of Wallbridge Loyalist Road, north of Dundas Street West, and south of Loyalist College. In 2020, the Loyalist secondary plan and zoning bylaw were amended to approve a public facility consisting of office, meeting rooms, co-working spaces, a conference room, and potential training space, but has remained vacant and undeveloped. In 2022, consent application B1122 added 8.2 hectares of surplus land from the village of Avonlea to this property. The new applications to amend the Loyalist secondary plan and zoning bylaws propose to restore the original residential land use designation and residential zoning. No changes are proposed for the lands designated as environmental protection or zoned as environmental protection zone. The official plan designations of the property are community facility and environmental protection. At this time, staff have received no correspondence from the public regarding this application. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Yeah, please come forward. If you could turn the microphone on there and state your name. Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Committee members. My name is Catherine Tran, a planner at RFA Planning Consultants, the agent on file, and I'm here to introduce you to the official plan amendment and rezoning application for a lot along Wallbridge Loyalist Road. For some site context, the site has a lot area of 9.3 hectares and is located within the Wallbridge Loyalist secondary plan. The site has approximately 60 meters of frontage, and surrounding the site there are low density residential uses to the south. To the north is Loyalist College, to the east is the village of Avonlea subdivision, and to the west is the Potters Creek Conservation Area. Overall, the site is vacant with mature vegetation, and the Potters Creek traverses along the southern limit of the site. To go over the planning process, a pre-consultation meeting was held with municipal staff on November 23rd, 2022, with the official plan amendment and rezoning applications filed on June 8th, 2023. And in support of the applications, a planning justification report, concept plan, and hydrogeological assessment were submitted as well. So shown on this slide is the concept plan, which depicts a conceptual dwelling location, and it also shows the zones of the surrounding area. This dwelling location is within the building envelope of the site after taking into account the R2 zone provisions and setbacks, 30-meter setback from the watercourse, 15-meter setback from the 100-year flood line, and it is outside of the environmental protection designated lands and the environmental control E-zone lands. A hydrogeological assessment was prepared by Cambium, and the report reviewed hydrogeological conditions in the surrounding area and assessed the water supply for the existing well. So the report concluded that the existing well has sufficient water supply and would have minimal impact on a neighboring well. Under the provincial policy statement, the lands are within the Belleville Urban Service Area and Loyalist Secondary Plan, and that is where growth and development is focused. Development of the subject property is considered minor infilling within the built-up area, and overall the rezoning and official plan amendment applications are consistent with the 2020 PPS. Under the Loyalist Secondary Plan, the lands are designated community facility and environmental protection on Schedule A, the land use plan. Therefore, an amendment to Schedule A is requested to recognize the proposed uses, which is for residential purposes. So the official plan amendment requests to redesignate a portion of the subject property from community facility to residential, and the existing environmental protection lands will remain unchanged. For the rezoning portion, the rezoning application requests to rezone the community facility CF zone and the agricultural A2-8 zone lands from the zoning bylaw 2076-80, which is the Sydney bylaw, to residential second density R2 zone of zoning bylaw 10245, which is the Belleville bylaw. And through the rezoning application, the existing environmental control E-zone lands will remain unchanged, and overall the rezoning application will accommodate a single detached dwelling on the property. In summary, the application proposes minor infilling within the built-up area, and the official plan amendment application requests to redesignate a portion of the property from community facility to residential. The rezoning application requests to rezone the community facility CF zone and agricultural A2-8 zone from the Sydney bylaw 2076-80 to residential second density R2 zone of the Belleville bylaw, which is 10245. Overall, the conversion of the subject property into a residential use will contribute in providing housing for, to meet the needs of current and future residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions from committee members? Councillor Millett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Ms. Tran. On the concept plan, attachment 6, it shows where the dwelling would be located. And to the rear and up until it meets the 30-meter setback and the other exclusion zones, the undevelopable lands there, there's a pretty good sized swath. Now it says here developable area 3.7 hectares. Is that for the entire, all the way from Walbridge Loyalist to the area where the dwelling is, as well as that rear yard area kind of, is that the total?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's the developable areas are considered all the lands that are available for building.
Okay,
to
that's
go.
in, yeah, so that's not what's remaining after the property or the house is built and that sort of thing. It's not, my question is, the area behind isn't 3.7 hectares.
The 3.7 includes the area behind, that more triangular shaped piece, yes.
Okay, and that's not proposed for any future development that we know of at this point?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Baltutis.
Further with Chris's comments, if that house is built, is that land behind that not landlocked? If that resident, because that's what they're asking for, to build a single resident, right?
It is all one property, so it wouldn't be landlocked.
if for future development? I know we're not talking about future development now, but
Any future development for the site would have to be accessed from the road frontage onto Walbridge Loyalist Road.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying would have to happen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from committee members? Ms. Jennings.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So why wouldn't we just rezone it a R1? Why R2? That leaves it open to future expansion, I guess, would be my question to the city. Do we want that? I think based on the numbers, you could probably fit 20 or 30 units on there, correct? If under R2 by that size of property?
Well, just for the public portion meeting, we'll let Ms. Janander answer the question, and then when we refer it for the second portion of the meeting, you can fire those questions to staff. Yeah.
Through correspondence with planning staff at the pre-consultation meeting, it was requested to rezone to an R2 zone for a seamless transition when the draft zoning bylaw comes in effect, where all general R4 properties currently would be going into an R2 zone.
Any other questions from committee members? No, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? And a third time, anyone wanting to speak in favor of the application? Anyone wanting to speak in opposition of the application? Anyone wanting to speak in opposition of the application? And finally, a third time, anyone wanting to speak in opposition of the application? Seeing none, I have a resolution that the 2663925 Ontario Incorporated application, PLO PA 2023-1001 and B-77-1195 be referred to the regular Planning Advisory Committee meeting for consideration. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Alsop. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to 4.2, Notice of Complete Application and Introductory Public Meeting for Proposed Amendment to Zoning Bylaw 3014, Plan 278, Lots 4 and 5, and Parts 2, 3, and 4 of Plan 21R-9614, Maitland Drive, City of Belleville. Owners Gary Parks, applicant is Laura Pickett and Tim Faubert. Agent is RFA Planning Consultants Incorporated, and the file number is B-77-1196. If I could have staff present the application, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. The property is located north of Maitland Drive, west of Farnham Road, and east of Highway 62. The application proposes to rezone the subject property from general industrial M1 zone to a site-specific surface industrial zone to permit specific uses. This application would facilitate the development of a one-story, 732.22 square meter building intended for a medical clinic and a pharmacy as an accessory retail use. The official plan designation of this property is employment land use. At this time, staff have received no correspondence from the public regarding this application. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Yeah, please come forward.
Good evening again. My name is Catherine Tran, a planner at RFA Planning Consultants, the agent on file, and I'm here to introduce the rezoning application for the subject property along Maitland Drive. For some site context, the lands have a lot area of 4,565 square meters with approximately 71.9 meters of frontage along Maitland Drive, and the site is within the Belleville Urban Serviced Area. Surrounding the site to the south and east are commercial uses, to the north are residential uses, and to the west are light industrial and commercial uses. The site is vacant with some scrub vegetation. Through the planning process, a pre-consultation meeting was held with municipal staff on May 4th, 2023, with the rezoning application filed on June 13th, 2023. And in support of the rezoning application, a planning rationale, site plan, and building elevations were submitted in support. On the screen here is the site plan, which was prepared by Ainley Group, which depicts a one-story service industrial building. The building will facilitate service industrial uses, including a medical clinic and a pharmacy. A future building addition is also contemplated to the east there, however, it's not proposed at this time. For land use compatibility, a 1.8 meter high privacy fence exists along the rear property line. Additionally, a 15-meter building setback is proposed for appropriate buffering to the residential uses to the north. And as I mentioned earlier, the building will be one story, which is lower than the residential uses to the north, which are approximately 2 stories. On site, there will be 46 parking spaces, and the site will be accessed through an existing entrance along Maitland Drive. On this slide, there are some building elevations here. So conceptual use of materials include stucco and brick veneer. A pitch roof is also contemplated to maintain the character of adjacent residential uses. And as I mentioned, the one story is proposed to reduce visual impacts to the residential uses to the north. To go over the provincial policy statement, the proposed development is within the Belleville Urban Serviced Area, where focus is on growth and development. The project will contribute to an appropriate mix and range of employment, institutional, and broader mixed uses to meet the long-term needs of the community. The service industrial building will diversify the economic base by including a range of employment uses that support the economic activities in the area, and overall, the rezoning application is consistent with the 2020 PPS. Under the City of Belleville official plan, the lands are designated employment land uses. No official plan amendment is necessary to support the proposed development, and overall, the rezoning application conforms to the general employment land use policies. To go over the rezoning application, the property is currently zoned general industrial M1 zone, and it is proposed to rezone to a special service industrial SI zone with special provisions. The special provisions would limit the permitted uses on site and permit parking in the front yard. Overall, the rezoning application will support a new service industrial building that would accommodate a local doctor's expanding practice. In summary, the rezoning application is submitted in support of a new service industrial building. The rezoning application requests to rezone the property from general industrial M1 zone to service industrial SI zone with special provisions. The proposed development will allow a local doctor to expand their existing operation to provide expanded healthcare for Belleville residents, and the accessory pharmacy will provide one-stop shopping for medical needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions from committee members? Councillor Brown.
Thank you for your update, Ms. Tran. I do have a question on your comment that official plan would not require any changes. It's my understanding that under the employment land use, and there's quite a definition in the package that we have here, that a medical clinic would require an exemption to the employment land use as described. Could you clarify why you believe there's no official plan change required?
Is my understanding in the official plan that in employment land uses, it permits quasi-commercial uses and service industrial uses which support the industrial industry, which the medical clinic would provide support for those workers.
Thank you. I'll just hold my next question till the next meeting.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? No? Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application? Anyone wanting to speak in opposition of the application? And finally, a third time, anyone wanting to speak in opposition of the application? Seeing none, I have a resolution that the Laura Pickett Tim Faubert application B-77-1196 be referred to the regular Planning Advisory Committee meeting for consideration. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And I get a motion to adjourn the public meeting portion. Councillor Alsop, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And moving on to the regular meeting, any disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof?
I do, Chair.
Oh, yeah. Councillor Enright Miller?
7.1 and 7.2 both.
7.2. And 7.1, okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. And reading confirmation of the minutes, resolution of the minutes of the City Council Planning Committee meeting and Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on July 4th, 2023 be approved. Mr. Baltutis and Mr. Jennings, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. There's no deputations. Correspondence. Can I get a motion to receive the correspondence received in the clerk's office? Councillor Enright Miller, Mr. Baltutis, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to referrals from the public meeting. Notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 3014. Plan 278, lots 4 and 5, and parts 2, 3, and 4 of Plan 21R-9614, Maitland Drive, City of Belleville. Owners Gary Parks. Applicant is Laura Pickett and Tim Faubert. Agent is RFA Planning Consultants Incorporated, and the file number is B-77-1196. And I have a resolution here that's a little different than what's written, so I'll introduce it and look for a seconder. That report number PP-2023-33 dated August 8th, 2023, regarding the notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, Plan 278, lots 4 and 5, and parts 2, 3, and 4 of Plan 21R-9614, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be received as information, and that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that the application B-77-1196 to amend zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended for Plan 278, lots 4 and 5, and parts 2, 3, and 4 of Plan 21R-9614, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be approved as follows: that the zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended be amended by rezoning the subject property from general industrial M1 zone to a site-specific service industrial SI-X zone to permit 9 specific uses as outlined in report number PP-2023-33. Second by Councillor Brown, and I apologize to the committee for bringing it forward this way, but I think this application is very straightforward. We have a veterinarian clinic across the road that provides health care for animals. It would make sense that we shouldn't be holding up an application to help our residents that require health care. I have spoken to Dr. Pickett previously when she was first looking at this application, and as was presented tonight in the deputation through the public meeting, this is an expanded practice. And so with the need for health care, we should expedite whatever we can to make this happen. It is in a reasonable location on a main artery. As far as the privacy goes in behind, I think a passive use as a medical clinic would serve well. It would be business hours only, and would be no different than to the property to the east of that. There's a carpet commercial place and a couple other ones where you have a little bit of transitory traffic. So I think overall it's reasonable. We appreciate that staff would we take this away and staff would go do their due diligence and come back. But we're talking about then another month and then another week before council. I think we need to move forward with this now and then get it in front of council next week. Councillor Millette?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to wholeheartedly support this as well, Chair. I think if we're talking about any expanded medical services for the people in this community, build it tomorrow, if you ask me. I'm not going to say that I'm a person who's in the habit or would welcome a habit of taking anything away from our astute planning staff, our expert planning staff, but as you so aptly pointed out, I believe this is a fairly straightforward application, and as I said, it should be built tomorrow. So the faster we can get this before council for approval, the better off we'll be, again, for expanded medical care for our residents, which is sorely needed, as we know. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Alsop?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to voice my support for this as well. I think it's a great use of the land in that area. Certainly we need more doctors and more medical practices in that area, particularly north of the 401. So I'll be supporting it wholeheartedly.
That's great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Enright Miller?
I just wanted to thank you, Chair, for bringing this forward and expediting the whole process, and yes, total support for this. Thank you.
Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. I also support this. I just wanted to confirm, since there's conflicting site plans, that the site plan with no rear parking is the one we're discussing.
I'll refer that to
That will
staff.
be without going through the.
Yeah.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, that is the updated site plan.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. 6.2, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendments to the Loyalist secondary plan and to zoning bylaws 2076-80 and 10245, part lot 31 and 32, concession 1, part 1 of plan 21R-19789, and part of 1 and 2 of plan 21R-26201, Walbridge Loyalist Road, City of Belleville. Owner is 2663925 Ontario Incorporated. Agent is RFA Planning Consultants Incorporated, and the file number is PLO PA 2023-1001 and B-77-1195. Resolution reads that report number PP-2023-32 dated August 8th, 2023, regarding of notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendments to the Loyalist secondary plan as amended and to zoning bylaws 2076-80 and 10245 as amended, part of lot 31 and 32, concession 1, part 1 of plan 21R-19789, and part 1 and 2 of plan 21R-26201, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to reports. Just give me a second here. 7.1, staff recommendation. Councillor Wright Miller. We'll let you know when these next two are done. Staff recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 10-245, 186 John Street, City of Belleville. Owner applicant is Flats Inc. and agent is Foten Planning Plus and Design. File number is B-77-1191. Resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That application B-77-1191 to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended for 186 John Street, City of Belleville, be approved as follows. That zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended be amended by rezoning the subject land from residential fourth density R4 zone to a site-specific residential fourth density R4-61 zone with the special provisions to permit the proposed use, reduce required lot area per dwelling, permit existing parking locations, increase permitted floor area for detached ADU, reduce rear and side yard setbacks for detached ADU, and increase permitted ADU heights to 2-story or around 7 meters. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. 7.2, request for exemption from condominium review, proposed plan of condominium, 240 Yeoman Street. Owner is 246-0467 Ontario Incorporated. File number is 12 CD-23001 and B-75902. Resolution is that the City of Belleville, the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That pursuant to Section 93B of the Condominium Act, 1998, the Council of the Corporation of the City of Belleville approved the request for an exemption from condominium review for lands owned by 246-0467 Ontario Inc., known municipally as 240 Yeoman Street in the City of Belleville, and that the plan of condominium, file number 12 CD-23001, for the lands identified in recommendation number 1 be granted final approval, and that the manager of approvals be authorized to stamp and sign the final plans, provided that the owner has satisfied all requirements and the surveyor's condominium plans are satisfactory to approval staff. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? See none, all in favor? That's carried. That's 7.2. Yeah, we'll get Councillor Enright Miller back. Moving on to 7.3, staff recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 10-245, 228 Dundas Street East, City of Belleville. Owner applicant is Metamore Inc., agent is Watson Land Surveyors, and the file number is B-77-1194. Resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That application B-77-1194 to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended for 228 Dundas Street East, City of Belleville be approved as follows. That zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended be amended by rezoning a portion of the subject land from residential second density R2-18 zone to residential second density R2-3 zone to fulfill a condition of consent application B11-23 and remove the site-specific zoning which permits only a parking lot and align the zoning with the rest of Bleecker Avenue. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any questions or comments? Councillor Millette.
Yeah, I'm going to support this, and for the express reason of removing the specific zoning that allows for only a parking lot there. I think that's clearly a use that, as we saw if we read the background on the report, Quinte Healthcare erroneously and came with an apology afterwards for establishing, turned that into a parking lot. I'm also happy to see that the remainder of the lot that goes back into the area that Mr. Kroc was speaking about will remain a wooded area or a greened area, if you will. There are some concerns in the neighborhood about what may become of that lot for future residential development, but that's I think that's a bridge we've yet to cross, and we'll broach that when we do. Metamore, I should note, is the owner of record of the development that we've now seen in partnership with the local branch of the Canadian Mental Health and CMHA Association, Addictions and Mental Health, and that facility is now, I should note, up and running, and it's not fully occupied, but it's serving the purpose that it should be. And I guess the good thing about that is that if I hadn't mentioned it, not a lot of people would have noticed it. So let's hope that keeps up. And I know CMHA is pretty excited about it. I've toured part of the property. So while Metamore owns the entire site, the more clinical and the residential part that is operating in the old, what people know as the old bug house, is working quite well. And this lot adjacent could be for some future use, and if it's properly planned and zoned residential use, Lord knows we need that as well in this community. So I'm going to support this. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you. I'm going to wholeheartedly support this as well. I recall during the public consultation process, there was a number of residents who expressed concerns about their residents' proximity to the building on the corner at 228 Dundas. And I think this opportunity with creating a buffer both until future builds happen and when they get to a future build, and I certainly hope they look at multi-unit residents, because Lord knows we need them. The fact that those residents will be moving in knowing their proximity to that location. So I think it creates a buffer that hopefully will address many of the concerns that we heard during the public consultation process. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I got a motion on the floor. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 7.4, staff recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 10-245, 270 Church Street, City of Belleville. Owner applicant is Gordana Vranik Velijevic. I apologize the pronunciation. Agent is RFA Planning Incorporated. File number is B-77-1193. Resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That application B-77-1193 to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended for 270 Church Street, City of Belleville, be approved as follows. That the zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended be amended by rezoning the subject land from general commercial C2 zone to a site-specific residential fourth density R4-61 zone with the special provisions to increase the maximum lot coverage, reduce the minimum front yard depth, and reduce the minimum accessory building setback from side and rear lot lines, and that a holding H symbol be applied to the site-specific residential fourth density R4-62 zone until such time as an occupancy permit has been issued for each existing residential dwelling unit. Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Any questions or comments? Councillor Millette.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I spoke at the last meeting when Ms. Vranic Vasilyevich brought this forward, and we learned at that time that the owner applicant was more or less with this process seeking permission after the fact, having already established and built 3 non-compliant residential units. I move this to be forwarded to City Council for approval, strictly on the provision that the holding symbol be applied until such a time as the occupancy permit has been issued. In that respect, making sure that all of the all of the building code and other provisions are addressed. And had we not been in such a critical housing situation where every rental unit is crucial, I'd hold a little harder line on a case where somebody's asking for forgiveness rather than permission in this kind of a case. But that said, I'm glad we're on it now. I offer every encouragement for Ms. Vranic Vasilyevich to proceed on this and introduce some proper rental facilities for the city. But again, coming to us for forgiveness rather than permission for three non-compliant housing units is not the way to go about things. But that said, I'm glad to see that we'll hopefully have some new rental properties on the market shortly. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Is carried. 7.5. Staff recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 10-245, 317 Front Street, City of Belleville. Owner applicant is Ali Omar. File number is B-77-1186. Resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That application B-77-1186 to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended for 317 Front Street, City of Belleville, be approved as follows. That zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended be amended by rezoning the subject lands from general commercial C2-3 zone to a site-specific general commercial C2-53 zone with special provisions to permit 2 dwelling units on the ground floor, to reduce the size of a 1-bedroom unit to 35 square meters, to limit the minimum height to 3 stories or 10.6 meters, whichever is greater, and limit the maximum height to 4 stories, and that a holding H symbol be applied to the site-specific general commercial C2-53 zone to require cash in lieu of required parking spaces to the city's satisfaction prior to the development of the subject land. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Any questions or comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I did during the, when it originally came to planning, I have to express my concerns that even cash in lieu is not going to solve a parking issue that exists downtown. I appreciate the more residential and that many of the living in the downtown core don't often have cars, but I know that it's been a persistent issue for the landlords and building owners downtown about the lack of overnight parking whether that overnight parking be for the residents and/or guests. To add this many more units without actually addressing the issue of how the parking will be addressed if and when it's needed is disconcerting to me. And I wondered if I could to staff, if there were any further conversations with the building owner about how they will address any overnight parking requirements, even with the cash in lieu.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Brown. I can't say that we've had direct conversations about how they would address the limited parking. I mean, I suppose we can offer general comments on what others have suggested, such as including that in the advertisements for the rental units, that there is no parking provided. But beyond that, we haven't had any conversations with how they plan on addressing that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We've got a motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. 7.6, staff recommendation report, proposed zoning bylaw amendment to zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended, 3 Highview Crescent, City of Belleville. Owner is Yolanda Lamoth and Kenneth Welburn. Applicant is Travis Royal. Agent is Q&E Engineering Incorporated, and the file number is B-77-1192. Resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that application B-77-1192 to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended for 3 Highview Crescent, City of Belleville, be approved as follows. That zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended be amended by rezoning the subject land from residential second density R2 zone to a residential third density R3-7 zone with special provisions to reduce the interior side yard setback to 0 meters along the shared property line party wall. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Alsop. Any questions or comments? See none, all in favor? Motion carries. Moving on to information matters, official plan and zoning monitoring bylaw amendment monitoring report, and the resolution is the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment monitoring report to August 8th, 2023 be received. Mr. Baltutis, Councillor Enright Miller, any questions on that one? See none, all in favor? That's carried. General business. Anybody have anything for general business? No? Okay. I've got some closing remarks. The Planning Advisory Committee's applicable decisions will be forwarded to City Council for consideration, forming part of the agenda for the City Council meeting to be held at a future date. With that, I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Alsop, Mr. Baltutis, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Sorry?